Across the vast, untamed heart of Africa lies a wilderness known for its raw power. But in 2026, that power turned on itself, unleashing a deluge that defied imagination. This wasn't just a storm, this was a reckoning. A catastrophic flood that swallowed landscapes whole, leaving behind a trail of unparalleled devastation. Thousands displaced, ancient ecosystems shattered. South Africa found itself battling a force it believed impossible. But was it truly impossible, or merely ignored? This is not just a story of disaster, but a critical investigation into why South Africa's defenses crumbled in 2026, and what lessons the world can learn. From the heart of Kruger National Park to the forgotten rural communities, we expose the shocking truth behind South Africa's flood apocalypse. January 2026. For weeks, relentless downpours battered the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. What began as heavy seasonal rains quickly became something far more sinister. The rivers, once life-givers, swelled into monstrous arteries of destruction. Communities along their banks watched in horror as their homes were submerged. Within days, major roads became impassable. Power grids collapsed. Essential services vanished, trapping hundreds of thousands in isolated pockets of despair. Among the most impacted was the iconic Kruger National Park, a sanctuary for some of Earth's most magnificent creatures. Its vast plains turned into a treacherous inland sea. Rangers, usually tracking poachers, found themselves on an impossible mission, rescuing animals from the very environment they were meant to protect. Elephants, lions, even hippos, usually masters of their domain, were left vulnerable. The scale of the animal tragedy was almost incomprehensible, but the tragedy extended far beyond the park fences. In rural villages, generations of tradition were washed away in a single, merciless wave. Meet Nkosi, a farmer whose family has tilled this land for centuries. Now, everything he knew is gone, submerged beneath a murky, indifferent tide. Nkosi. We have seen floods before, yes, but never like this. The river, it used to be our friend. Now, it is a monster. The 2026 floods were a stark reminder. Even in a land of ancient wisdom, humanity remains fragile before the raw, untamed power of nature. But was this truly an act of an untamed nature? Or did decades of human decisions, or lack thereof, amplify the catastrophe to unprecedented levels? To understand 2026, we must look deeper into South Africa's climate narrative, a story of escalating weather extremes, ignored warnings, and a race against time. Professor Anya Sharma, a leading climate scientist, warned us in 2020. The question isn't if, but when South Africa faces unprecedented water events. Yet, despite these stark predictions, a critical lack of investment in flood defense infrastructure persisted, a legacy of neglect stretching back decades. Many ask, how does 2026 compare to the devastating floods of 2000? The answer is chilling. 2026 was worse, far worse. In 2000, the infrastructure was already strained. By 2026, it was brittle. The promise of upgrades dissolved into budget cuts and political inertia. Dr. Thabo Mkhize, a civil engineer, spent years advocating for modernized flood defenses. His reports, often ignored, paint a grim picture of systemic neglect. Dr. Mkhize: we had the plans, the technology, but political will? That was the missing piece. Every year, it became harder to get anyone to listen. Deforestation along riverbanks, unchecked urban sprawl into floodplains, these human fingerprints on the landscape exacerbated nature's fury. The 2026 catastrophe wasn't just a natural disaster. It was a failure of foresight, a stark warning of what happens when we ignore both science and our environment. Amidst the chaos, stories of incredible human spirit emerged. Communities, often overlooked by authorities, rose to the occasion, proving resilience in the face of despair. In the village of Kwatukuza, cut off for days, residents organized their own rescue teams. Their canoes, usually for fishing, became vessels of hope. And the wildlife, too, found champions. Dedicated conservationists risked everything to save the most vulnerable creatures, often against overwhelming odds. One extraordinary effort saw the airlifting of dozens of stranded rhinos and elephants from rapidly shrinking islands to safer ground. But perhaps the oldest lessons came from the San people, whose ancestral knowledge of riverine dynamics offers a sustainable path forward, often overlooked by modern planning. Their practices, centered on living with the river, not against it, involve respecting natural flood patterns and avoiding construction in vulnerable zones. This ancient wisdom, combined with cutting-edge 2026 technology, could be South Africa's true blueprint for future flood resilience. The devastation of 2026 revealed South Africa's vulnerabilities, but it also forged a collective will to change. The question now: how to build back better? Across the globe, nations have faced similar challenges, and some, like the Netherlands, have pioneered groundbreaking solutions, offering a glimpse into a flood-resilient future. By 2026, the Netherlands has perfected its room for the river concept. Instead of merely building higher walls, they allow rivers to expand, managing water dynamically. This isn't just engineering, it's a societal shift. Investing in long-term resilience, prioritizing nature-based solutions, and leveraging AI for predictive modeling. And in Japan, home to immense metropolitan areas vulnerable to typhoons, an underground marvel protects Tokyo, the metropolitan area outer floodway. By 2026, this colossal system has integrated cutting-edge drone surveillance and AI-controlled gates, ensuring proactive diversion of floodwaters with pinpoint accuracy. These global blueprints offer South Africa not just hope, but a roadmap, a chance to transform catastrophe into a catalyst for change. But implementing such solutions requires political will, public awareness, and a commitment to transparency that has been sorely lacking. Many viewers asked, what about the government's role? Is corruption to blame? The evidence suggests a complex web of factors where negligence plays a significant part. Dr. Mkhize: we cannot afford to point fingers forever, but we must learn from past mistakes. The lives of millions depend on it. And the spiritual interpretations? Some saw it as divine wrath, others a wake-up call. But science offers a clearer, albeit more challenging path. Professor Sharma: faith gives us strength, but data gives us the tools. We need both to navigate a changing world. The path to resilience is long. It demands courage, innovation, and a collective promise to protect both our people and our planet. The future of South Africa, and indeed many climate-vulnerable nations, hinges on the decisions made today. We, the global community, have a role to play. So, what can you do? Support local NGOs on the ground, advocate for sustainable policies, educate yourself and your community. Join the conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters in shaping a more resilient future. The floods of 2026 were a brutal wake-up call, but they can also be a turning point, a testament to human ingenuity when faced with our greatest environmental challenge. Thank you for watching this special report. If you found this investigation valuable, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into critical global issues. Our journey into South Africa's flood apocalypse is far from over. The long-term impacts, both ecological and human, will shape the region for decades to come. The displacement of communities, the loss of livelihoods. These are wounds that will not heal quickly. Generations will bear the scars of 2026. The psychological toll is immense. Experts predict a rise in trauma-related stress and mental health challenges for survivors, especially children. Educational continuity has been shattered. With schools destroyed and learning materials lost, a generation's future hangs in the balance. The delicate balance of Kruger's ecosystem is also in peril. Changed river courses, new invasive species, and a loss of prime habitats pose enduring threats. Wildlife migratory routes, established over millennia, have been disrupted. This could have cascading effects on the entire food chain. The ghost of 2026 will haunt South Africa, but the lessons learned, the resilience shown, can light a path forward, if only we choose to follow it. The international community is watching. Aid efforts, while critical, are merely temporary bandages on deeper systemic wounds. True healing requires fundamental change in governance, in infrastructure, and in our relationship with a changing climate. The choice is stark. Learn from the apocalypse of 2026, or risk repeating history on an even grander, more terrifying scale. As the immediate floodwaters receded, the true scale of the crisis began to emerge, not just in mud and debris, but in the echoes of loss. For many, the world they knew was gone. Farms, schools, hospitals, foundations of life, now just memories beneath the drying earth. The agricultural heartland, the lifeline for millions, turned barren. Fields of maize and sorghum, once vibrant, now caked in toxic silt. Food security, already a challenge in the region, became a nightmare. The long shadows of famine began to loom. Access to clean water, a fundamental human right, became a desperate struggle. Contaminated sources spread disease, a silent, deadly aftermath. Beyond the immediate, the economic toll on South Africa is staggering. Billions in damages, lost tourism revenue, and crippling rebuilding costs. The global supply chain, already fragile, felt the tremors. Exports halted, imports delayed, impacting economies far beyond Africa's borders. This wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a societal breakdown, exposing the interconnected fragility of human systems and our planet. But even in the deepest despair, glimmers of hope shine through. The human spirit, unyielding, found ways to endure, to rebuild, and to look towards a brighter tomorrow. From improvised clinics to community kitchens, the informal networks often outperformed official responses, a testament to grassroots innovation. The world rallied too. Volunteer organizations, often working under extreme conditions, brought essential supplies and comfort. Online, communities organized relief drives, crowdfunding campaigns, and even virtual therapy sessions for those suffering far from the cameras. The wildlife sector, hit hard, saw unprecedented collaboration. Rivals put aside differences to save endangered species. One such story involved the rescue of a family of rare pangolins, trapped by rapidly rising waters in a remote cave. Their survival, against all odds, became a symbol of hope, that even in the darkest times, life finds a way. These acts of courage and compassion offer a crucial blueprint for rebuilding, not just homes, but trust and a shared future. But a lasting future cannot be built on individual heroism alone. It requires systemic change, informed by both science and ancestral wisdom. The 2026 floods were a brutal teacher. The lessons are clear. Embrace foresight, empower communities, and respect the natural world. South Africa stands at a crossroads. The choice: rebuild the past or engineer a future where humans and nature coexist, resilient and thriving. The blueprint for resilience is now clearer than ever. It demands urgent action, unwavering commitment, and global collaboration. From the Room for the River in the Netherlands to Tokyo's underground marvel, the solutions exist. They are proven, innovative, and waiting to be adopted. It's time for South Africa to seize this moment, to transform tragedy into triumph, and to lead the way in climate adaptation. But it won't be easy. The road to resilience is paved with political challenges, financial hurdles, and the need for a unified national vision. The voices of the people, the wisdom of science, and the lessons from other nations must converge to prevent another 2026. This is a call to action, not just for South Africa, but for every nation confronting the new normal of a climate-changed world. The time for debate is over. The time for denial is past. The future demands courage, collaboration, and a profound respect for our planet. South Africa's flood apocalypse, a harsh lesson, but one that can redefine our relationship with the Earth. The echoes of the storm will forever linger, but so too will the spirit of those who fought, survived, and dared to dream of a better future. This investigation was brought to you by your channel name, empowering you with knowledge for a complex world. Remember, your insights and comments are vital. What actions do you believe are most critical for climate resilience in South Africa and beyond? Stay tuned for our next deep dive, where we explore the global water crisis and innovative solutions. This segment explores the political landscape's impact. Were critical decisions delayed by bureaucracy, or worse, corruption? Documents reveal a pattern of diverted funds and unfulfilled mandates for flood defense projects stretching back 2 decades. The public outcry, often expressed through social media, paints a clear picture of frustration and a demand for accountability. Professor Sharma: science can provide solutions, but it cannot legislate change. That responsibility lies with leadership. This leads to another critical question from our viewers. Are early warning systems effective or just for show? The tragic reality: many systems were either defunct, lacked proper maintenance, or failed to reach remote communities in time. But there's hope. New technologies like satellite-based alert systems and mesh networks can provide real-time warnings to even the most remote areas. Implementing these means not just funding, but a dedicated commitment to updating infrastructure and training local communities. The 2026 floods have left South Africa with a choice: to be defined by its tragedies, or to rise, transformed, as a beacon of resilience. The challenges are immense, but so too is the spirit of its people. The world watches, hoping for South Africa to show the way. This isn't merely a South African story, it's a human story, a blueprint for survival in an unpredictable future. Your engagement fuels these investigations. Join us in exploring solutions and holding power accountable. Subscribe now and become part of a community dedicated to understanding and addressing the most critical challenges of our time. From South Africa to your screens, this is Weather Intel, uncovering the truths that shape our world. The true measure of a society isn't how it fares in prosperity, but how it recovers from disaster. South Africa's spirit, battered but unbroken, offers a powerful lesson to a world grappling with escalating climate impacts. From the scientists predicting the future to the elders remembering the past, a tapestry of wisdom emerges. This wisdom, if harnessed, can transform vulnerability into strength, despair into determination. The journey is not without obstacles, but the destination, a resilient, sustainable future, is worth every effort. As stewards of this planet, the responsibility falls to each of us to demand action, support innovation, and advocate for change. The story of South Africa's floods is not over. Its next chapter is being written by all of us right now. Thank you for joining this vital investigation. Together, we can turn the tide.